hit it as it was falling. Throwing a 3/4 ounce Strike King heavy cover Hack Attack. It's a good one. Hack Attack spinnerbait. I'm throwing it deep. I'm fishing it out in 10 to 17 foot of water. Fishing it on 15-pound line. Oh, he's staying down. There it goes. That's a good one. Come jump. Come here, baby. How about that? So yeah, it's like I said, it's just a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. When the fish get offshore, I'm just fishing just a hump out here away from the bank. That's a great fish. About a 4-pounder. But that's a big bait. It throws a big profile. It has a big thump. You can catch numbers with it, but you can also catch real big ones. So that's a good start. We'll put him back, see if we can get another one. So most people think of spinnerbait, you know, they're thinking about throwing it at the bank, fishing it over grass, throwing it next to a lay down tree, but it's a very effective tool for catching bass in deep water. You know, it mimics shad or a group of shad. You know, you get on these hard humps offshore where the bass group up, and it's a great way to not only trigger a bite to catch numbers, but it's got such a big profile. I mean, you put that next to a crankbait, that's a much bigger profile than a crankbait. So it's a good way to catch a big one too. And one of the things I like about it, you know, that fish we just had a minute ago, it hit on the fall. You know, and it's kind of windy today, so I'm gonna I snatched my line down so I won't have a big bow in it, so I can kind of have a direct line to the spinnerbait. And I let it fall on a tight line. And what I saw there was it jerked forward and then it laid limp, and that told me something happened on the fall. And so, but then once it gets bottom, I'm just gonna start slow reeling it. There's several different retrieves you can do, but generally I start with the slow reel. And if I think it, you know, it's got a big blade on it, and if I think that blade's lifting it up off the bottom, I'll quit reeling for a second, let it go back down, and I'll start my retrieve again. I mean, it's real simple, real straightforward. You're just trying to keep it down there close to the bottom. But one of the nice things about a spinnerbait, whereas a crankbait's gonna go down and it's gonna keep going down, well, maybe they're not pulling a lot of current, or those fish are kind of up off the bottom. They're still looking down, but they're not down tight to the bottom. You can run that spinnerbait more at their level. You know, it's not going down under them like a crankbait would. It's kind of coming at their level. So it's real effective in covering not only the bottom, but it can cover everything in between the bottom too. You know, another retrieve I'll do with it, I'll cast it out on the spot. And my line's tight, and I'll know when it gets there because the line will kind of lay on the water. So once I see that, I know it's on bottom. I'm just gonna start slow winding it. But a lot of times what I'll do, I'll take and wind it a couple times and let it fall. When it gets bottom, I'll wind it a couple times, let it fall. We've got a little bit of wind drifting us. Might open my bail, make sure it gets back to the bottom. Wind it a couple times, let it fall. Yeah, the key to fishing a spinnerbait deep is obviously the weight of the spinnerbait itself, and then what blade you choose. Oh man, one just stroked it right there. But and when that happens, when you get a bite like that, just let it go back to the bottom and then start reeling again. Oh, mama. I don't know what those are. Can't get them. So obviously the big key with fishing a spinnerbait deep is the weight of the spinnerbait, and then the blades you pick for it. If you pick a big round blade, it's gonna cause the bait to have a lot of lift, and it's gonna cause it at, you know, the force against the blade is going to cause the spinnerbait to rise up, so it won't stay on the bottom real well. So what I usually choose is going to be a willow leaf, maybe with a Man, it feels good down there. Willow leaf with like a Colorado combination. That's my favorite combination for doing this. And then, there we go. I missed him. Let me make another cast real quick. I'm gonna let it get down there. But that willow and Colorado combo doesn't have a lot of torque on the spinnerbait that's gonna cause it to raise up off the bottom, so I just keep a nice steady retrieve. And then, you know, I like a big head on that spinnerbait. Some people like a small kind of narrow head, even though it's a, you know, a much larger than a shallow spinnerbait would be. I can use a 3/4 ounce with that big head, and I want to feel it bumping into the cover down there. I like that big head on there to kind of knock and come over the cover.
It's almost like a football every blade.
It is. And that Strike King, that heavy cover spinnerbait, oh my goodness. You kidding me? I got him. I took a bunch of tries. Might not be bass, the way they're biting, it's like they're hitting the blades or something. Nah, that's a bass and a keeper. There must just be a bunch of them down there. But, you know, the weight of the spinnerbait is real key too, because the weight with a combination of blades that won't pull real hard will keep it down. Nice. Come here, buddy. So there we go. Oh. Chunker. I mean, these fish are offshore and they're feeding on shad. That's what those bellies are full of. That's full of shad right there. How about that? That's a nice one. 3.5 pounder, big bellies. Love that. But there was 4 or 5 bites on that one cast, and it's hard not to jerk, but you know, if I feel a bite, I might pull, and I'm kind of trying to feel tension. You know, I want that fish to kind of get the bait and load up. A lot of times they're coming up and they're smacking at those blades. They're not getting down by your hook. You can see how it's kind of bent that one out. We'll talk about that too. I'm gonna let this one go. So yeah, on that last fish, I let it get down there on top of that hump, and then I just started winding on it. And I had 4 or 5 bites there in one cast. And it's kind of hard to know if you need to jerk or if you should just keep coming with it and see if they'll get a hold of it. And when you start to feel the rod load, then really lean into them. Because I think what happens, you get those fish in these big schools, they see those 2 blades and a skirt and a trailer and everything coming through there. It probably looks like 4 or 5 shad coming through there. And you'll get 3 or 4 or 5 bass coming in there and swooping on it, you know, and they'll hit the blades and hit the trailer and hit the bait and don't actually get a hold of the hook, you know. So I almost get to the opinion of where you've got to, if you don't feel the fish, you don't set the hook. But I don't know, it's a tough one. Sometimes, you know, they'll come up from behind it and clobber it and it'll just go slack, you know. So you got to be ready. I feel like when I'm fishing a deep spinnerbait, I'm kind of coiled up right now. You know, I'm real tense. I'm winding real slow, but I'm real tense because I want to be able to just turn immediately when I think he's on it, you know. Yeah, one thing about deep spinnerbaits too, when it gets down and hits the bottom, sometimes it'll lay kind of cockeyed and the blades won't start spinning when you start reeling it. So you won't feel that good pressure on the other end of the line caused by the blades rotating. If it feels just kind of loose on you, I just give it a quick pop and it'll usually straighten those blades out behind it where they'll start spinning the right way. There's one. Another spinnerbait fish. I threw a buoy here. I throw that buoy back there because I want to mark where my boat needs to sit, not where the actual fish are. I don't want the buoy in my way of where I'm fishing. But I need a reference on where I need to keep my boat and what cast I need to make. Oh, you just get off. Quick release. But yeah, so I've got a reference. My buoy's right there behind me. I've got my line up on the bank, and now I can make that same cast that I'm getting bit on every time. You know, I'm in their feeding zone there, and I know that, and I've got to make that same cast every time now. Once you get them going, you know, the spinnerbait's it's not a rapid bait. You know, I'm winding it pretty slow, but it's putting out a lot of pressure waves because those blades are fairly large. It's, you know, the bait weighs 3/4 of an ounce. It's got a skirt and a trailer on it. I mean, it's putting out a large profile in the water. Sometimes I think that's a key to triggering fish as much as a wild, erratic action, just a large profile. I missed him.
Check us out at wired2fish.com.